Yes, Honorable. Yes, Honorable Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since you are preparing for the order 114, the order 114, the lobby will have to be clear. The lobby will have all those who do not have votes, so all those who do not have votes will have to respectfully, so that only those who vote, so that only those who vote to go through the will stay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, because we don't have a division room, I'm advised that the agreement is that we'll all file out, and then the years will come, and they are counted, and after that, the notes will come. After that, the notes will counted. And they are let me put on record. As soon as I leave the seat, I'm administering. Second deputy speaker house, you will relieve me, and I will cast my vote. Thank you. Honourable members, by the rules, the bells will be rung for 1 minute. I'll put the question again, and if it is we will then go through the process. Thank you very much. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you very much. Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to draw the chair's attention to Order 109. Order 109. Sub 3. Order 3. Sub Order 3. Mr. Speaker, it says a deputy speaker. Any other member presiding shall not retain his original vote while presiding. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable, please. Yes, Honorable, please.
Mr. Speaker, at the commencement of public business, of public resumption, and the resumption.
Order. Please, order.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes,
Mr. Speaker. At the commencement of public business, and when we resume after adjournment, after suspension, the first deputy speaker took the chair as a speaker of parliament.
Please, not as the Speaker of Parliament. Not as the Speaker of Parliament. That's very important. Mr. Speaker, I am duly corrected by referring to you having taken the seat as Mr. Speaker. You took the chair deputy speaker, and in the words of order 109 sub order 3, you are not entitled to an original vote. As the person presiding, it will be contrary to the practices, conventions of Parliament for you to hand over your seat and come down and join the fray in voting of Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, the reason why the drafters of the orders, as well as the drafters of the Constitution, did not give the person presiding a casting vote is because they wanted to prevent a situation where you can descend into the fray once you are presiding. So, Mr. Speaker, I am pleading with you to stick to the rules of this House and not exercise your original vote, and respect the rules of this House and not cast an original vote in contravention of the standing orders of Parliament. Yes, Honorable Minister for Interior.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honorable member read the rule and decided to ignore a material part. A deputy speaker, or any other member presiding shall not retain his original vote while presiding. While presiding. So when he leaves the seat, he's entitled to vote.
Other members, let's proceed. I'll put the question again. The question was, all in favor of suspending the standing order requiring 48-hour rule to say aye. All in favor say aye. Aye. All against say no. I think the ayes have it. Yes, still with.
Mr. Speaker, I come again under Order 114 to challenge your decision on the voice vote and call for division. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. That is the procedure. We have to do it to get to the division. Thank you. Very well. So, please. Yes, still good.
Mr. Speaker, because we are going into division, it is important to address a fundamental issue which has been raised to guide us as we go into the next stage of the process. Mr. Speaker, the respected learned Dr. Dominic Ayeni, for the first time, in mounting an application, relies solely on the standing orders of this House. Mr. Speaker, I dare contend that there is no such constitutional provision that denies a deputy speaker of his original vote. I dare contend and I challenge you, Mr. Speaker, and where there is a constitution which is a fundamental law, any standing order cannot stand in the way of the constitution. So that argument he made does not survive, because he could not, if you quote a constitutional provision, in our constitution it is only the speaker who is prohibited. It's clear, Mr. Speaker, because that speaker is not a member of parliament. You so heavily relied on understanding orders. Mr. Speaker, let him quote an express provision in the constitution which says that a deputy minister, a deputy speaker has no original vote. Mr. Speaker.
Yes, table office, kindly clear the lobbies. Yes, leader.
Mr. Speaker, I believe this is taking us back. We put a question, and I believe that we can move on. Otherwise, we're going to have to re-argue this whole thing again. The question now has been put, so let's deal with it.
No problem. That, for me, it's a legal exercise by the lawyers, that's all. But we are clearing the lobby so that we can start with the division. Are you? Yes. Oh, very well. Honourable members, we are starting the division. All who voted aye, please file out. But when you are coming back, please, the ministers and deputy ministers will not come back into the chamber. Who are not members of parliament.
He was just being counted for food.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
No, but that's not the
one. You have not cleared the lobby. You have not cleared the lobby because you still have ministers who do not have votes within the midst of the people. And two, Mr. Speaker, the rules require that we appoint two tallies from both ends. We need to appoint two tellers from both purposes.
Let's go after
Let's go. So we need to get it right, Mr. Speaker.
Clerk. Honourable members, kindly leave the chamber. Go to the other side. Your name will be called and you come in, please. Kindly leave the chamber, please. Your names will be called out and then you
This
come
is
in.
illegal.
Can you please clear the area? Kindly go out. Your names will be called out and then you come in, please. Honourable members, you start with the names, calling out the members, please.
Abakas Samuel Erickson. Abakas Samuel Erickson. Constituency. Shama. Abanga Abdullahi bin Duri. Abuaji George Dami. Asine Akrosu Mansu. Abdullaiba Zuera Wale. Achampon Brian Abetifi. Achampon Charles Lower West Achim. Abba Alexander Agbesi Akimoda. Adam Mohammed Amin Dr. Karaga. Ade Yao Trimpong Mansu Adubia. Eje Kwesibuati New Drabe North. Adam Frederick Obi Upper West Achim. Adumaku Mensa Collins Efijako Abri North. Edu Johnson Kwaku Arafano Southwest. Edu Chum Ya Osei Dr. Bosonfi. Afenyo-Markin Alexander Kwamina Efutu. Africa Mensa Akwesi Owusu. Amasama. Every year Nana Ayu Doctor if you ask your Sokori. Every year, Kwaku Doctor Afenyo-Markin. Ajapon Ken Ohimi, Astin Central. Ajari Alexander Kede. Ajimaimenu Kwaku Doma Central. Patriotic Brekum West. Ahingrakis Le Carlos, Tema West. Edu William Orebu, Afenyo Markin South. Achia Samuel Ata, Ebuako South. Alasan Abdullah Idi, Saladan North. Alasan Lydia Seyram, Ayawaso West Wogon. Amankwa Menu Kofi, Ejumako Ahuma. Amewu John Peter, Ohoy. Amewu Sherami Kwesi, Sunyani East. Amos Ebonso, Ipiapim South. Amos Stephen Doctor, Ishaisu. Amaku Andrew Esiama, Somina. Amakwata Kwesi, Etiwa West. Amakwata Kwesi, Etiwa West. Amprechum Sapong Kweku, Mampong. Amprechum Kweku. Mampong. Andrew Emmanuel Eje, Echima Mwabiaja South. Any Moses trouble, any Moses trouble. I'm not on Brent Frank, it's a one with a jury. Entry Eugene Boachi Subi. And you may do entry for me, Asante Akim Central. Yes. People are going now. People are going now. People are going now. How can you vote and go out?
The second deputy speaker to take the chair.
You choose what you want to do with it.
So what you are just witnessing, if you're just joining us here on the Joy News channel, is Parliament in a total state of chaos. This was supposed to be a counting process when the members of Parliament were supposed to file in and be counted as they voted on the subject of whether or not to consider the E-Levy bill under a certificate of urgency. If you're just joining us, a short few minutes back, the problem was the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, who was in the chair, then announces to the floor that if everybody empties and leaves the chamber to vote, he will join them and also vote. But remember that the constitution provision of the matter is very clear, but there's some debate on this from the majority side, that he cannot do so if he is presiding. And indeed, the former Deputy Attorney General made the point to him that he can't do so if he is presiding. But as we saw, he then announces how he plans to do it. He gave a hint that he will sit in his chair, he would allow the second Deputy Speaker to take the seat, and then he will exit to go and cast his ballot. When he comes, he will take his seat and allow the second Deputy Speaker to also go and count, and also come in and get counted. If that happens, that rotational approach, if that happens, it means that the MPP will get 138 votes against the NDC's 137. Remember, the Abang Bagwen is still nowhere to be found. Muntaka Mubarak had explained to us on PM Express that he possibly isn't on the premise of Parliament because he had gone to get some for medical reasons. Now, as Joe Wise announced that a division should happen, the MDC side left the chamber. They started filing in, the names were being called, and the vote was being tallied. Then he got to his turn and he wanted to leave. Immediately he got up, bowed to the second deputy speaker, and the NDC side attempted to grab his seat. In other words, if you leave, we will seize your seat. And if we seize your seat, there will be nowhere for the second deputy speaker to sit, which is what generated the chaos. And in the full glare of the public, you will see MPs exchanging blows. I saw, if I'm not mistaken, the sports minister, Mr. Youssef, throwing jabs. Another MP from the NDC side also throwing back. People's shirts look torn in the process. Parker is with me. Parker, give us a sense of what is happening. It appears that some sense of order may have returned now.
Well, Evan, the minority leader Haruna Iddrisu is trying to restore order into the chamber. And I must say that some of his colleagues are complying. You can see here in Parliament that some of the MPs have resumed their seats. When Haruna Iddrisu indicated that colleagues, and I'm quoting him verbatim, colleagues, whether MPC or NDC, whether minority or majority, kindly resume your seat. And so some of them, I must say, have complied. Most of the NDC MPs currently have resumed their seats. They are currently Others who are also going to resume their seat. Quite a number of the NPP MPs have already resumed their seats. And so calm appears to prevail in Parliament this evening. But I'm sure you saw what happened just about 10 minutes ago. So that chaos and members of Parliament exchanging blows, some falling over each other, and all was an attempt to stop the first deputy Speaker of Parliament, because the same was there with you, who had indicated to the House that he was going to vote. And so the minority MP wanted to block him from doing that. In fact, in their words, he will be perpetrating illegality. And that led to the fight, the chaos. In fact, this is indeed was an interesting spectacle in Parliament just about a few minutes ago. So currently, calm has been restored, and we are waiting for the next line of action or what will be done. I can see the minority leader and the majority leader together with Casey Amon, Lydia Al-Hassan, and James Kluchi Abechi, and also Muntaka Mubarak currently in the middle or in the center of the chamber, where they are having a conversation among themselves, while the other members of Parliament have resumed their seats. So if it comes to the chamber, this is what is happening. And I must say, some of the MPs also are dumbfounded, Evan. They are shocked. But if you see the reaction of Jogati, he's really surprised by the turn of events here in the chamber, together with Dominic Ayeni, who was just looking on. So you could tell that he was amazed, overwhelmed by what was happening. In fact, he had his two hands fixed around him, and you could tell from his face that he was very disappointed and felt very embarrassed about what was going on. But now, I can say that calm gradually is returning to the chamber, where all the MPs from both sides of the aisle have resumed their seat. But the leadership is currently having a conversation among themselves. But I can say again that both the first deputy Speaker of Parliament and the second deputy Speaker of Parliament are not in the chamber presently. So there is no speaker, and the maid also is not in the chamber at the moment. You could see the marshal protecting the speaker's chair, the marshals protecting the maid. Shortly, in the midst of the chaos and the disagreement and the fight, they moved away, or they moved the maids away. And so you don't have the symbol of authority of this Parliament currently here. Neither do you have the first deputy Speaker of Parliament nor the second deputy Speaker of Parliament in the chamber. And Evans, there is another interesting thing is that still, as we speak, we do not know the whereabouts of the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Babin.
And that indeed is a mystery. As I indicated earlier on PM Express, thankfully, we got Muntaka Mubarak to explain to us that it's possible. I mean, that he was making the point that we should not pretend that the Speaker of Parliament hasn't got health issues, and that the agreement was that he was going to retire for a while, probably take his medicines because he just returned from Dubai for some medical attention, and when he's done so and feel rested, he will then return to the House. But as we see, he hasn't returned yet, and which is really the source of the chaos. Remember that the minority guys have done a press conference earlier, also on PM Express, indicating that raising suspicions where the speaker had been, because without him, the minority side will be short by one vote. There will be less one vote, and that will mean that there'll be a tie. And if there's a tie, the vote is lost. But as we've seen, even in the absence of that, even with knowing what the constitutional provisions are on this, at the press conference, the deputy majority leader was clear that where was the speaker, because he knew that in the absence of the speaker, one of their own will have to sitting as speaker, as in the first deputy speaker or second deputy speaker. And if that happens, according to the constitutional provision, he can vote. But Joso Usu attempted to go out and vote. which is what led to the exchange in the blows, as we saw, and an attempt to seize his seat to prevent the second deputy speaker from sitting down. Parker, I see there are a lot of consultations still happening, and there's no indication how this might end. Do we have?
Yes, we don't know how this might end.
Is Joe Owusu still there in the House?
No, he's not. In fact, when the minority MPs attempted to block him, he moved up. He moved away because he had indicated that he's still a member of parliament and he was going to vote. The NDC MP felt that was going to be an illegality. So Evan, as I speak to you now, the leadership of the House, that is the minority leader and the majority leader, have left the chamber. They are going into the Speaker's office, where it's just around the plenary or the chamber, to engage or further consult. So that is the consultation that is going to go on. So Haruna Idrisu and Osteite Mensah just left the chamber and they were moving out together whilst they were engaging in some kind of a conversation. So it is understanding that they are going to consult and finalize on the way forward. And you know that the NDC, the MPP are already indicated to us that without a speaker, they are not actually going to proceed with today's session. That now that the speaker is still not available, what then happens? And we've seen this acrimonious scenes once again in the chamber. The question is, what next? So I'm sure we'll have to wait a little while longer while the two leadership consult with the first deputy speaker of parliament and the second deputy speaker of parliament on the way forward. But for now, the MPs themselves have resumed their seat. The NDC, the NDC MPs are having a conversation among themselves. Then the majority MPs are equally doing the same. So that is what is currently happening here in Parliament. So we will have to wait for the consultation to be done, and what's done, I'm sure they will communicate their decision to us as to whether we are proceeding with the recommendation to approve the E-Levy, or we have to adjourn to another day where the Speaker would have to fully recover before Parliament can now debate fully on the E-Levy. But for now, there seems to be a break they put a break in the conversation about whether we need to approve the E-Levy or not. So this is the current situation in Parliament. I'm trying to see, I heard a few noise, I heard some noises around, I checked, but it's just the MPP MPs who are still talking on some of their voices and raising concerns about how the NDC is obstructed government business. And for them, they are still insisting that the E-Levy, whether they like it or not, will be approved by this Parliament.
Parker, stay with me. And indeed, this is a pretty shameful day for Parliament. There's been a few shameful days for Parliament this year. But this is another one, another law in the Parliament, the current Parliament that we have. If you're just joining us and wondering why all this has panned out, it only happened because Joe Owusu attempted to vote when he was presiding as the Speaker of Parliament. And he himself, just last week, was absolutely clear on the matter. He was clear, quoting the constitutional provision, which is that if you're presiding, you can't vote. He was very emphatic on those same issues. But he attempted to vote today. He attempted to go out. He attempted to go out and come back and vote. The minority side were not having any of that. They were determined to seize that seat so his deputy, the second deputy, cannot take the seat. Because if that happened, then he can go and vote. He will also come back and relieve the second deputy. The second deputy will also go and vote. And then they will have those two votes in the bag, and the vote would have carried. And the interesting thing about this is even not the vote on whether to pass the E-Levy or not. This is the vote on whether to take it under a certificate of urgency. So imagine what will happen if we come to the vote on whether to pass the E-Levy or not. Well, as we speak, the Speaker of Parliament, Abambagbe himself, is still nowhere to be found. But as I've been talking about, if you've been with us since we started PM Express, you get a sense of where he was and what is happening to him, because Muntaka Mubarak had indicated that he is not there for good reason, because of possible medical reasons. He needed to take some medication, possibly rest, and that may have been the reason, according to the minority whip. I'm going to take a quick break. Now that the calm has returned, the majority and minority leaders have exited the chamber, as Parker had said. They possibly are going to be consulting a bit more and returning to give some direction to what will happen now in the House. The voting, by the way, appears to have stopped now. So that division that would have led to a proper count, a proper head count, a proper voting on the subject has stopped. And so it begs the question, can Parliament continue to sit? Because that's what they had to do. Would they agree to go back and vote? If they do so, will the minority side agree that Joe Owusu should vote? And for all of us who have watched it, it appears the only thing that will save this, if Joe Owusu agrees to stay presiding and not vote. But will that happen? We'll learn more when we return from the break. Stay with us.
In this season of giving, sharing, and gratitude, we pause to appreciate you, the special people who made our journey joyful. We say a big thank you. From all of us here at the Multimedia Group and our families to your families, grateful hearts. Asida, Christ at work.
Hello, my name is Abeku Agri Santana. If there's anything that makes my life so easy, it is my bank. I love hanging out with my boys at our usual fufu joint. But even without cash, we still dey chop better with EcoBank Mobile. No matter the time of day, my bank helps me stay in touch with my beautiful wife whenever she's away. And when my beautiful wife is in town, she never misses out on her favorite TV shows because I'm able to pay up all my TV subscriptions from the comfort of my mobile phone. Whenever she has to get groceries too, my bank makes it cashless and convenient. And the part my wife loves the most is when my bank makes it possible and easy for her to shop from any part of the world without moving.
Welcome to the smart world of EcoBank. Download EcoBank Mobile from Google Play Store or the App Store and discover the smart way to bank. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana and play Joy FM.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
Listen to Joy FM, Hits FM, Love FM, live on your Amazon Echo. Listen to your favorite multimedia radio stations live on your Amazon Echo device by saying, Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana, play Joy FM or Hits FM or Love FM. Or catch up on your favorite podcast by saying, Alexa, play, and then the name of your favorite podcast from Multimedia Ghana. For a list of all podcasts available, say Alexa. Ask Multimedia Ghana to browse programs. Alexa, welcome to Multimedia.
After all I put into that building, suddenly, cracks everywhere.
I mean, how? The contractor said the building materials were imported, so I didn't worry.
Now I have to pay for the whole building to be built again.
All you need is Fab 500 steel rods to take care of your building stress and yours too.
Choose Fab 500 steel rods from Fabry Metal. It's remarkably strong steel. Fabry Metal, your partner in steel.
How long have you had to dance in the rain? How many lemonades have you made out of those lemons thrown at you? Whatever you have been through in life, one thing still remains: change. Join me, Rosie Felly, on Changes every Wednesday and Friday as we impact lives and change the sight.
What changes every Wednesday and Friday only on Joy Prime.
Joy Prime, the ultimate experience.
Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana and play Joy FM.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
Listen to Joy FM, Hits FM, Love FM, live on your Amazon Echo. Listen to your favorite multimedia radio stations live on your Amazon Echo device by saying, Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana, play Joy FM or Hits FM or Love FM. Or catch up on your favorite podcast by saying, Alexa, play, and then the name of your favorite podcast from Multimedia Ghana. For a list of all podcasts available, say, Alexa, ask Multimedia Ghana to browse programs. Alexa, welcome to Multimedia.
This December, Samini will ignite a fire that cannot be quenched. Where will you be when the true king of African dancehall takes GH on a journey into decades of showmanship? The Jam of the Year beckons as Image Bureau and Samini Music present the Samini Experience Concert. It's happening Friday, December 24th, Grand Arena. Get your tickets now to the biggest concert of the year, the Samini Experience Concert, selling now at only 250 cedis standard and 350 cedis premium at www.saminiexperience.com. Buy now till December 1st and enjoy a whopping 10% discount. Kind courtesy MTN. All COVID-19 protocols will be strictly observed. The Samini Experience Concert, produced by Image Bureau with support from Joy Entertainment, Special Ice, and proudly brought to you by MTN. Everywhere you go. Baby, drop my picture.
And indeed, Parliament is still in a state of, how should I call it, uncertainty. In the last few minutes, there's been a major fight indeed in Parliament, which has led to a major confusion on the floor and has also led to come to blows with the Speaker's chair, the hot item of envy by both sides indeed. My NDC side wanted to seize it. The MPP side wouldn't let them. And so there was an exchange of blows. Why was that the case? Because the speaker had gotten up and was allowing the second deputy speaker to take his seat. He had himself said that he was going to get up and go and come in and be voted for and vote. He's already indicated what he was going to do, which is what had led to the NDC side, who believed he was not entitled to vote because he was presiding to do so. Parker, my parliamentary correspondent, is still with us because there's a calm now. But if you were just joining us, you just missed a major storm on the floor. We'll get Parker on pretty shortly. What has happened so far is that the majority and minority leaders have exited the chamber now, and they've exited to go and consult a bit more. As you see there, the seat of the speaker is empty because Joe Owusu himself isn't there, and the deputy isn't either. The speaker himself, Alban Babwin, is still nowhere to be found. And earlier, the press conference had been held by the minority side insisting that where was he and that he was supposed to take his chair. I mean, the interpretation of the subject of the Constitution has become a key matter of some controversy as far as this is concerned. The interpretation of the majority side, and the lawyers are very divided on this matter. The minority side believe clearly that when the Constitution says that when you're presiding, you do not have an original and a casting vote, it is as simple as that. The Speaker of Parliament doesn't have that, and that therefore, whilst at the time that he had called for that vote, he was presiding and cannot leave the chamber to come in and vote. And as he had indicated, if he had done that, he would also then had returned, taken his seat, which would have then allowed the second deputy to also go and cast his vote, which is really what has led to the chaos that we've seen today. We'll be returning to Parliament shortly, getting an indication if indeed this process may return. The process that was in question was the voting. Voting was underway, voting on the question of whether to take the E-Levy under a certificate of urgency, which is what they were voting on. The minority side had indicated that they would want a vote on that question because they believe that it shouldn't be taken on a vote of another certificate of urgency. The committee had earlier, Finance Committee, had earlier recommended that it be taken under a certificate of urgency. In fact, even that was controversial because at the committee level, the minority side again objected to that, and they again moved for a division, which is that let's vote on this. When they cast their ballots, it came down to 12-12. And then when that happened, the chairman of the committee had his casting vote come to play. And as a result of that, the tie was broken. And once that happened, the view of the committee for a majority decision was that this should be recommended to the House for a certificate of urgency consideration of the E-Levy, which is what came to the floor for some debate. And as a result of which a vote was called and led to all the confusion that we saw about 20 or 30 minutes back. The House pretty quiet now, waiting for the two leaders to return for some direction on this matter. We would be staying with this because there's no resolution yet. What will happen to the voting that was happening before all the confusion had ensued? Will that return? Will they resume the voting? It's a key question to ponder over. When the issue returns. We'll get to the House very shortly on that. My colleague Parker Wilson will join us very shortly. He himself has been on Parliament and the floor. He's still trying to get us clarity on what is happening now as far as this is concerned, with the two sides now having returned, we understand, to the Speaker's chambers now for some deliberations on the matter. We'll get clarity for you pretty shortly.
Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana and play Joy FM.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
Listen to Joy FM, Hits FM, Love FM, live on your Amazon Echo. Listen to your favorite multimedia radio stations live on your Amazon Echo device by saying, Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana, play Joy FM or Hits FM or Love FM. Or catch up on your favorite podcast by saying, Alexa, play, and then the name of your favorite podcast from Multimedia Ghana. For a list of all podcasts available, say Alexa. Ask Multimedia Ghana to browse programs. Alexa, welcome to Multimedia.
How long have you had to dance in the rain? How many lemonades have you made out of those lemons thrown at you? Whatever you have been through in life, one thing still remains: change. Join me, Rosie on Changes every Wednesday and Friday as we impact lives and change the society.
What changes every Wednesday and Friday only on Joy Prime?
Joy Prime, the ultimate experience.
This December, Samini will ignite a fire that cannot be quenched. Where will you be when the true king of African dancehall takes GH on a journey into decades of showmanship? The Jam of the Year beckons as Image Bureau and Samini Music presents the Samini Experience Concert. It's happening Friday, December 24th, Grand Arena. Get your tickets now to the biggest concert of the year, the Samini Experience Concert, selling now at only 250 cedis standard and 350 cedis premium at www.saminiexperience.com. Buy now till December 1st and enjoy a whopping 10% discount. Kind courtesy MTN. All COVID-19 protocols will be strictly observed. The Samini Experience Concert, produced by Image Bureau with support from Joy Entertainment, Special Ice, and proudly brought to you by MTN. Everywhere you go. Baby, drop my picture.
Well, this is our special coverage of the parliamentary chaos around the E-Levy. And as you, I can see now that the minority leader is back in the chamber, which means that possibly we may be getting some clarity on how Parliament plans to proceed now. We'll be speaking shortly with a few of the members of Parliament on the floor who have been affected by this. Sam George and co will join us as we get clarity on this. And you're still live with us as we are all trying to make sense of what is happening here. So bear with us as we try and get some clarity for you on this developing breaking news story from Parliament. It's almost 12 o'clock, some 17 minutes to, and we still don't have clarity on how Parliament plans to proceed. But I want to bring in Sam George, who is the MP for Ningo Pram Pram. He was very instrumental in taking down the names when the voting started. And so he had a front row seat to the chaos that played out. And I'm happy that he joins us now. Thankfully, possibly we can get some clarity from him on really what happened there. Mr. George, I'm grateful for your time here on Joy News.
Thank you very much, Ivan. So very good evening to your viewers and listeners.
I was here watching you while all this was unfolding, and I saw that you and I think your other colleague, Afenyo-Markin, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. You had your notes and you were, what was happening there? Just explain to us, because there's a lot of confusion here. You were standing there and taking notes. What was happening there?
All right. We had challenged the ruling of the Speaker and called for division. The Chief Whip, Honorable Alhaji Muntaka Mubarak, had challenged the ruling of the Speaker on a voice vote and called for division. The Speaker decided that this time he was going to go by the standing orders to the letter and ensure that the chamber was cleared of all those who voted aye, and then put them in the lobbies and then have them names called out one by one. During that process, you would have two tellers from both sides of the divide overseeing the process, acting as what you would call maybe regular parlance, polling agents. And so myself and Roxanne were representing the majority side. The minority side to take count of the majority members who were coming in, verify and ascertain their identities, and ensure that they had gone through that number. Now, after that process started, we had recorded 39. We were on number 40 when the Fomina MP, who had already come in, and if I check my records here, the Fomina MP was number 33 to be called in. He's the second deputy speaker. But what I noticed was after he had been called in and went to sit, I realized that there was some movement. I saw his clerk walk up to him and I saw him begin to leave the chamber. At that point, I alerted my leadership and said, the point of voting and verifying the numbers is for everybody who's been counted to stay in the chamber and those who've not yet been counted to be out of the chamber. So we couldn't understand why anybody was going to be leaving the chamber at that time. It could lead to a double count. Some said, oh, we knew who he was. We said, well, he wouldn't be allowed to leave. But before we realized he had left, gone to Rome, and approached the dais to swap with the first deputy speaker who was presiding, at which point this would be tantamount to an attempt to rig the elections. Because, and why we say that is, I will just read for you from the Hansard of Parliament. This is not Sam George. The Hansard of 1st December 2021, columns 81 and 82. These are the words of the first Deputy Speaker, Honorable Joseph Osei-Owusu. Honorable members, when it comes to the question of voting, it is very clear. Anytime any of the Deputy Speakers or any other honorable member elected to preside is in the chair, that honorable member does not vote. That has never been in this. Anytime. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. I can hear you.
Yes. Okay, so it says that anytime an honorable member presides, either the deputy speaker or an honorable member by necessity is elected. from honorable members, that person that's to vote. These are the Honorable Joe Osewusu's own words on the first top. Evans is mindful. It's important that we put something out. When he was asking the majority side to step out, he said all pairs aye in the voice vote was put. He was presiding. He did not take part in the voice vote. He didn't. So was he then going to step out and go and join them to vote? Because that was supposed to be a head count of persons who are taking part in presiding at the time the voice vote was put. He did not take part in that vote. So how could he then be part of the counting? Except it was an attempt to rig the elections. I can't find any other explanation for it, because the instruction from the chair was for those who had voted to step out. He put the question, except for that when he put the question during the voice vote, while sitting in the chair, he took part in the vote. That in itself would have constituted an illegality. So, I mean, it's unfortunate where we've had to find ourselves again and the rules. It's unnecessary, you know. But this lets you understand the feeling of the ordinary Ghanaian when it comes to this levy and the issues surrounding it.
But the constitutional provision, well, the standing orders is also, you know, reflected a bit in the Constitution Superior. But that provision you quoted, it talks about while presiding. As at the time that we saw the chaos, we will come to the chaos shortly, he was out of his chair. And so when he leaves his chair, he's no longer presiding, and therefore he can vote, can't he?
Evans, the direction to start the votes by division was for persons who had voted aye in the voice vote to step out into the lobby to be counted. Did Mr. Speaker vote aye when the voice vote was put? That's the question we should be asking. If he had voted aye, because that was the instruction he gave. I'm not even talking about the constitutional provisions here. The directive of Mr. Speaker were clear that made the side speaker at the time who was presiding. Did he vote in that voice vote? So if he did not vote in that voice vote, how was he going out to be counted? Because it was a count of persons. Because see, the vote by division is to ascertain the actual numbers when there is in dispute the result of a voice vote. So if Mr. Speaker goes to get counted, part of the original voice vote, it will be an attempt to rig the election. Okay. I don't know if you get it.
In fact, now that you're saying that, I want to read the procedure on divisions, because I think he offers some clarity to what you're saying there. And this is Standing Order 1131. It says, in the case of a division, Mr. Speaker shall direct that the lobbies be cleared, and upon such direction being given, the division bells shall be rung for 1 minute. After a lapse of 2 minutes from this direction, he shall put the question, and Mr. Speaker shall declare whether his opinion, the ayes and the noes have it. If his opinion is again opposed, he shall announce the names of 2 tellers for the ayes and 2 for the noes, and shall direct that the division be held. The names of members of voting in division in the House shall be recorded by division clerks immediately before members pass out from the ayes and noes lobbies. Your argument is that when it talks about shall announce the names of 2 tellers for ayes and 2 for the noes, it is only limited to those who had voted ayes or nays, and he didn't vote aye or nay, and so he can't vote in the process that follows.
I mean, this is sound legal reasoning and basic logical reasoning. There can be no other interpretation for this, okay? Because the challenge is on ayes and noes. The original vote was a voice vote of ayes and nays. It is the result that is the interpretation of Mr. Speaker that is being challenged. So what you want to then do is to find out the number of people who shouted the aye and the number of people who shouted the nay. Because you could have 10 people shouting aye, but maybe they have big voices like mine. And so it will sound louder than 20 people who may have the voice of someone like Stephen Amwa, who may have a smallish voice. And so then the 10 people shouting aye will sound more than the 20 people saying nay. So when you do a head count, that would allow for you to determine in reality how many people counted. So it is for that reason, even ministers who were on the floor, the finance minister was on the floor, the Minister of State for Finance was on the floor. The National Security Minister was on the floor. But during the vote by division, they would not have been counted because they were not supposed to take part in the voice votes. The one presiding did not take part in the voice votes, except we are saying that the referee was wearing a jersey. So Hudson Kotoko played, and we asked the Kotoko captain to be the referee of the game. Is that the kind of kukufu football we want our democracy to become?
I mean, but the question remains, even if what you're saying is true, what about, was violence the way to deal with it?
Regrettable. I mean, without any shadow of doubt. It's unfortunate we had to get there. But you see, this is a very passionate subject. I mean, and look, if we had a secret ballot on this matter, trust me, I can tell you that you would have more than 2/3 the members of parliament voting against the E-Levy. Because many of the members of parliament, even on the majority side, have been spoken to by their constituents, the people who elected them to come here, that they're not in support of this bill. When we speak in the coffee shop, you hear their comments and sentiments on the bill. But there's a 3-line whip, and they have to abide by it. So it's a very passionate subject. Look, you have a situation where the NDC in opposition doesn't introduce any bill in parliament, but everybody's looking up to the NDC today as the last bastions of hope. We appear to be the only messiahs or saviors left for the ordinary Ghanaian who is about to be hit with this draconian tax. Nobody's talking about government because it appears that the Ghanaian people have given up on the Akufo-Addo government as being insensitive. And their only hope is on the opposition NDC. Yes, we need not resort to violence, and it is regrettable, extremely regrettable. But these are issues of great passion. These are issues of great value and sentiment to the people we represent. It's unfortunate that certain triggers led to the unfortunate scenes we see in Parliament. But I just hope that we can play by the rules and have this done in a very convivial and congenial manner. It will help all of us.
So the curiosity now is, what happens now? Because that process of the division has stopped, was truncated. What is happening now? I see the leaders leave. Haruna came back. He's left again. What's happening?
Leadership is in consultations. I mean, there are a number of options. One of the things that we know is certain is that we will not allow the second deputy speaker to take the chair because the first deputy speaker was presiding over a vote. So it's either he comes back to complete that voting process, or if he feels that the atmosphere of the House will not support us continuing the vote, then he should come back into the chair, come and adjourn the House. Now, in adjourning the House, is he adjourning the House till tomorrow? Or is he adjourning the House sine die? Parliament should have reason on Friday. Don't forget. We are in overtime as we speak. We should have reason on Friday. Today is Monday. In fact, as we speak, today is Tuesday. It's 12 midnight. You get it? And so the question is he coming back to adjourn us till tomorrow? And what are we coming to do again tomorrow? Does Speaker Bagbin come in and I mean, Speaker Bagbin was in the House this morning. He was here. The government side was not ready to transact business. He was here till the closing, the official closing time of Parliament, which is 2. He was here beyond that time. You get it? The business had not been brought. So that's where the challenge is. So are we rising again till tomorrow? Are we rising sine die? I think that's a decision leadership is looking to take with Mr. Speaker, First Deputy Speaker. And let's see, does he come in and adjourn the House sine die? We come back in January and pick this, or does he adjourn the House? We come back tomorrow and we come back today, later today, between this time and when the House receives maybe at 2 p.m. tomorrow, some kind of understanding on the way forward could be taken. we need to have a roadmap to resolving this issue. I mean, these scenes are unbecoming of Parliament, and we need to say, if we can't
Oh, goodness me. We are losing him there. Okay, I can see that unfortunately we are losing Sam George. He's come with some clarity on this. Mr. George, do I still have you? Okay, I want to go to Parker.
No, these conversations.
Okay, I think to have gotten you back. Can you hear me, Mr. George?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Yes, I can hear you.
So you said something I just want to clarify quickly before I let you, because I see that the House may just be resuming session.
Yeah.
You said that one thing is clear, that you will not allow the Speaker to vote. Is that was the clarity?
No. We said we will not allow the second deputy speaker to preside until the issues of the votes that were being presided over by the first deputy speaker are concluded.
Okay.
Yes.
And the question then naturally follows: how do you plan to do that if he insists that he want to?
That's what the leadership is doing right now, because we don't want to do it on the floor of the House. That's why there's two leaders are in a meeting with the speaker, and they would have. So, like you said, Honorable Haruna came back to speak to the side of the House on what the issues are, to find out what our position and his position is. He leads the caucus. The caucus has made his position clear to him. It's gone back into that meeting. We are waiting to hear what the outcome of that meeting is. That is our caucus position. It doesn't mean it's going to be carried. We're waiting to see what the Speaker will say.
Sam George, I'm grateful. Thanks for the clarity there on the issues that had been played out on the floor. We'll try and get the other sides on this, because there are two sides to this. We've heard Sam George, his interpretation of the standing orders on division is when the Speaker puts the voice vote. Well, I can hear Mr. Speaker. Parker is joining me now. Parker is in the chamber. Also joining me is Joseph Gakpo, who is also our parliamentary correspondent, who is he's at large now, but he's joining me right now via Zoom. Parker, I can see that the Parliament is resuming. Give me clarity now. What's about to unfold?
Okay, so you just heard Mr. Speaker. The second deputy speaker of Parliament is the one going to take the chair. We've seen the majority leader and the minority leader walk into the chamber now. And so the second deputy speaker of Parliament, Andrew Esiama, is the one taking the chair now. So he's set to address Parliament and the members who are ready to listen to him. And of course, this means that the leadership have agreed on the way forward, perhaps, because they went into conclave and they are now back.
Okay. We can go back to Parliament now. Let's listen in.
Honourable members, under the circumstances, we are joining the House tomorrow, 9 o'clock in the forenoon. We are joining the House tomorrow, 9 o'clock in the forenoon. Honourable members, the House stands adjourned. Yeah, this morning, 9 o'clock this morning, it's already 12.
It's the second deputy speaker. Parker is still with me. Also joining me, we'll be getting reactions. Parker will be getting us reactions while the MPs are leaving show, so stay with me. Also joining me, Joseph Gakpo, also with me. But Parker, clarify for me, the challenge that the majority side had. Oh, Parker is not on. Okay, we'll get Parker shortly, but Joseph is on. Joseph.
Evans.
Great to see you. And I know you've been watching this unfold from wherever you are, from this undisclosed location. We have to dig you out, because these are unprecedented times in Parliament. And so, yeah, your expertise is needed here. First of all, Joseph, let me start you. I'm going to throw you into the deep end. What is at stake is they were voting on whether to consider the E-Levy under a certificate of urgency. The vote has started and was interrupted. What we heard there is simply to say we are adjourning, but the vote has started. As Sam George had said, They had counted more than 30 people. It remains to be seen. This is uncharted territory here. What do you make of that?
That's exactly what it is. Very much uncharted territory. We saw the vote for the speakership. It was done on more than one occasion. It was done, then got disrupted. The processes commenced again until eventually, I think after the third attempt, then one or the other, they managed to get it through to the end. So whenever the sitting eventually resumes, there is that possibility that they could begin at that level. Maybe decide that they are scraping the very first part of it that's just unfolded, and maybe get on to commence the processes all over again. That could be the next decision. I just think that looking at how everything has actually turned out, with the tension, with the back and forth, with the fisticuffs as we've seen, maybe the House should go ahead and adjourn up until January, which would have given everyone enough time and space to then consider this further, deliberate on it further, and probably come back in January when the House resumes, I think in the second week of January thereabout, to then eventually take a decision on how the way forward should be. I doubt that by 9 a.m. tomorrow, they would possibly have reached a consensus on what the way forward should be.
Yeah, I mean, that is obviously clear. But then also it allows for the Speaker of Parliament himself, right, to possibly also be present. This whole controversy started with his absence, with the press conference by the majority almost suggesting that he had deliberately conspired with the minority side to disappear, leaving them with a speaker who is from their side, meaning they were deprived of a vote. But if they are adjourning to tomorrow morning, that actually helps the cause of the minority, because it's possible that you can have the speaker in the floor. And if they're going to continue from where they left off, then the division will continue, and this whole controversy around those who can't vote is out of the way.
You actually mean this morning, not tomorrow morning.
Exactly.
Past midnight.
This morning, yes.
So that's exactly what the NPP side had been looking for all along, that the speaker should come back, take his chair. They would have their 138, the NDC would have their 137. Eventually, when the vote gets cast, it would go in their favor. We acknowledge the point that was made that the speaker, Alban Bagwen, could possibly not have been well, which is how come he is unavailable to then go ahead and preside over the sitting. But the NDC as a party has repeatedly stood against this in terms of the whole idea of the E-Levy. And even if it was possibly a strategy by the party to ensure that the vote fails, one way or the other, that is what could possibly be the sense that they are getting. And some judge made the point that as far as they are concerned, there is huge rejection of the whole idea of the E-Levy. And so they, as the representatives of the people, would probably have to go along that direction. But what we saw ended up unfolding. So now we are doing more than just the legal bits, but also the politics as well.
Yeah.
There is possibly the political gymnastics that's happening on the side of the NDC, and the NPP then responding with even more vile political gymnastics, to the extent that, the first deputy speaker would want to get off his seat, allow the second deputy speaker to step in, and then go ahead for both of them to cast their votes. It's very much interesting, because if you read the provisions, it's almost very clear, unless we get an interpretation from more strong legal brains and even the courts as to what that means. But it's almost very much clear that if you are preside and allow the processes to unfold and allow those who are ordinary members of parliament to go ahead and do the voting. And some judge made the point that as at the time that the voice vote was down on whether the 48-hour duration should be waived before the report is debated, Joe Sewusu did not participate in that particular voting. And the majority side may want to then go in and make the point that at the time of presiding, but if you pay attention to the spirit and latter of what the standing orders actually say, I get a very strong feeling that it actually means when you are presiding, there shouldn't be the playing of the gymnastics to allow you to then get off the seat for your second deputy to come in and then go ahead with the process. And you engage some of the NDC MPs, and they made the point that they think that this was a deliberate attempt to rig the process, and they didn't have a choice than to resort to how things unfolded to pull brakes on the process. So and I'm quoting an NDC MP that I engaged. Otherwise, they claim that this will probably look like the election process itself, where they claim that they were rigged, and they did absolutely nothing about it. They are determined to do something about what they see was an attempt to rig the voting on the E-Levy thing.
And by the way, just to refresh our memories, this attempt to rig the vote was a same reason they gave for this incident around the election of Bagbin, which led to the chasing of somebody grabbed a ballot, and we know the MP. They chased him down. The same here. In this case, they wanted to grab in that case, they wanted to grab Carlos Ahinkra. In this case, they wanted to grab the chair. Because without the chair, the second deputy can't sit. And if he can't sit, then of course, it's confusion. But let's, we're going to get some reactions from Parker shortly, because as the MPs file out on what has happened tonight. You were watching all this with us, and the thing about what has happened tonight, it's those who didn't see the chaos that unfolded. There was actual blows around the speaker's chair. And I saw, I don't know if you saw it, I think Miss Yusuf, who used to be the former National Service Secretariat boss, now he's the sports minister, exchanging blows with it was just total chaos. And the police officer, I think Mr. Tete had to now step in at some point. The marshals were overwhelmed by this. This is a pretty shameful day for Parliament again. Another blow for Parliament.
You couldn't have used any stronger word than that. It's all shameful. It's condemnable. It's something that shouldn't have happened. Okay. When we saw this unfold on the dawn of 7th January, we thought that it was probably going to be the very last time. It's very much unfortunate that it's all happening again. Both sides should have seen this coming, as far as the leadership on the side of the NPP in Parliament and the side of the NPP in Parliament are concerned. They should have seen this coming and probably found a way to really get to the bottom of it. The other thing that I'm seeing... Joseph, stay with me,
because Parker has Neil Ante van der Poy, who we saw in the thick of the fisticuffs where the speaker's chair was, and he's joining us now. Parker.
Evans, the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Andre Sema, just adjourned sittings to tomorrow 9 a.m. And this was shortly after the whole issue about the chaos and the acrimonious scenes we saw in the chamber this evening. And some have said this is a blot on the integrity of Parliament as an institution. The Member of Parliament for Dodio constituency is here, Nina van der Poy, and he was in the thick of affairs this evening. Honorable, join me here. Now, Honorable, tell us, what really happened in the chamber this evening, sir?
Well, in as much as I would say it's unfortunate that such a thing should happen, I think Ghanaians should put the blame on the first Deputy Speaker and the second Deputy Speaker. Our democracy and our parliamentary practice is at risk if they continue to exhibit such biased attitude. You all remember in this house when their famous rescission of Honorable Babu's decision. Honorable Osewusu then, sitting in, said that he was counting himself among the quorum, but then he knows he has no vote. Today, he, Osewusu, is sitting in the chair and claiming that he still has a vote, even though he's presiding, which is in contravention of the standing orders and the Constitution of this Republic of Ghana. So we said that we will not allow him to vote, because by sitting in the chair and presiding, he has no original vote nor casting vote.
By the time he was going to vote, he wasn't going to sit in the chair. He was leaving the chair and handing over the chair to the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament. So technically, he wasn't going to vote.
Parker, when you are presiding and order the division, and the division is ongoing, then you are getting out of the chair to go and exercise your vote. Where have you found this before? Where is this? Where? It's like you presiding, a referee saying that, let me just wear the jersey of one team, play, after that I will come and continue as a referee. Have you seen that before? It doesn't make sense anywhere. And that's what we objected to. We are not going to allow Osewusu to turn the Constitution and the standing orders around to suit his whims and caprices. It is not right, it's unconstitutional, And it's very, very reprehensible for a speaker of this house to do what he did.
You are blaming the first deputy speaker of parliament for what happened, but there are those who have said that if you disagree with him, should that lead to violence? I saw you in the midst of the action, fighting your colleagues.
We didn't fight. We were principled in the fact that this man once said that as the first deputy speaker, he wasn't a speaker. It led to confusion. Today too, he wants to arrogate to himself a vote that by sitting in the chair and presiding, he didn't have.
Did that lead to a fight?
We couldn't have allowed
changing blows.
We couldn't have allowed him to do what was wrong. You and I agree that the constitution that we all have agreed to govern us tells us that we have the right to prevent somebody from obtaining the constitution of the Republic of Ghana. And that's exactly what we did. We're not going to allow ourselves to obtain the constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
No, I get a point that you're not going to allow him, but I'm asking a direct question. Should I have led to the fisticuffs we saw, the pushing each other, the exchange of...
It takes two to tango. If the other side, the majority group people, had sat down and also reserve and allow us to argue our case out, there wouldn't have been scuffle. But they decided to attack our people. They decided to prevent us from making sure we fight for our rights. And that's what led to the confusion. You saw it. They were the people who tried to prevent us from asserting our rights. There was no way any of us could have just gotten up and do what happened.
Do you regret what has happened? Particularly for you, fighting your own colleagues.
We will say that it's unfortunate, it's regrettable, yes, but then it serves a purpose. Sometimes you need to do the wrong thing for the right reason. We need to do that to save our constitution and our parliament from being used as a tool to serve somebody's interests, whims, and caprices.
But why are you a violent person, by the way?
I am not.
You're not a violent person?
But did you see anybody there as violent?
I'm just asking a question because Ghanaians who are watching during this evening are disappointed in members of parliament.
Why should particularly the minority? Of parliament? We were fighting for the interests of Ghanaians. We were fighting that we shall not allow such an atrocious levy to be put on the head of Ghanaians. And somebody want to use an unconstitutional means to make sure he pushes this levy through. So between us and those people who are lawless, between us and the people who want to obtain the constitution of this country, who want to set aside our standing orders and forcefully push through a killer E-Levy, which we are resisting, between us and those people who are lawless.
Where is the Speaker of Parliament at the moment, Alban Babi?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Because there's no law in this house or in our standing orders or the constitution that tells us that when a speaker is leaving the chair for the first deputy speaker to take over, he should announce to the whole house where he's going and what he's going to do.
But this is a crucial document of the 2022 budget. Don't you think the speaker should have been here to preside over this issue to ensure that there is calm and peace in Parliament?
Was the speaker here when Osewusu rescinded the speaker's decision? That fateful day, was the speaker here? Osewusu has proven that he doesn't need a speaker to overturn decisions that the speaker has taken. So the presence or the absence of the speaker is immaterial as far as the orders and the constitution of this country is concerned.
So now what next? The speaker has adjourned sits into tomorrow. What next for the minority? Are we starting the process all over again?
We'll come tomorrow. We call for a division. We will make sure the division is upheld. We'll make sure the voting is counted. And we'll make sure that Osewusu, if he is presiding, will not vote.
So
any of the deputy speakers, either the first or the second, when that person is presiding, that person cannot arrogate himself a vote. That person loses his original and the casting vote when he is presiding. And that we shall insist, because that's what the Constitution of Ghana and our standing orders say.
Would you impress upon the speaker to be present in the chamber tomorrow? Because his absence again might cause chaos.
The speaker just returned from a medical trip. So if the doctors advise him to rest, you want him to risk his life and come and sit in the chair because somebody else has decided not to respect the Constitution and the standing orders. Because of that, Speaker Babi should risk his life and come and sit in the chair. I think that what Ghanaians should be interested in is telling Osei-Osu that he's doing something wrong. He is going against the constitution, he's going against our standing orders, and as a lawyer, and as somebody who has been a speaker for at least one term of parliament, he should not be doing what he's doing. Simple.
Honorable Leland, thank you very much for your time this evening. And Evans, I must say that the majority caucus, they are still in the chamber. They are having a meeting, so none of the members are out yet, but most of the minority members have left the chamber. Of course, as you know, that sitting has been adjourned to tomorrow, 9 a.m., and this was communicated to the House by the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Andrew Siama, who took the chair or who was presiding over sitting at that particular moment. So for now, we do not know the whereabouts of Joseph Usu, and the minority again has served notice that when they return tomorrow, when Parliament reconvenes to continue with the business of the day, they will ensure that if it is whether the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament or the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, any matter that has to do with voting, they will ensure that they block whoever is in the chair from voting. So this is the current situation here in Parliament. The minority is insisting that what they did was to defend democracy and defend the right thing. So we still keep tabs on the meeting that the majority is having, and when they are done, I'm sure we'll get a few reactions from them on what's happened so far tonight.
Parker, thank you very much, and indeed, a great job there, staying up all day from morning to bring us this climaxing of Parliament's day. Indeed, this morning at 9, the House will resume, and the proceedings would continue. Joseph is with me. Joseph, so there we have it. That's Nilante van der Poel's view too. He was seen in the melee. He says it's okay if you do the wrong thing for the right reasons, and that is his justification. What's your own take on this?
Well, were there options if they were very much of the opinion that the first Deputy Speaker shouldn't have done what he did? Well, you may never know. That's a conversation that would continue to drag on for quite a while. As to the justification or as to whether what the first Deputy Speaker did was right or wrong. But clearly, from the spirit and letter of the provisions that are contained in the standing orders, the expectation wasn't that one way or the other, you would preside over sitting, vacate the seat, go take your seat in the chamber, vote, and come back and oversee sittings. That's kind of a very strange approach to all of this. And again, maybe a court would be an appropriate institution to eventually determine this. But just looking at how it all unfolded, the processes, looking at what the standing order says, it looks very strange to me that Joseph also took the position that there was a way. And funny enough, he served notice ahead that this is what he was going to do. And so that was probably the appropriate way around it. But then, as some of the NDC MPs have said, it eventually amounts to kind of rigging the process, which is how come they reacted the way that they had to react. And I'm still very much of the opinion that this is something that cannot be resolved in the next few hours. And we all saw the kind of uproar that greeted the whole concept of the E-Levy. I think what is needed is a bit more time and a bit more space to deliberate further on this. Because, Evans, mind you, we are a long way away from getting this approved eventually, even if the voting resumes this morning. So usually when a bill comes to Parliament, it goes through what is called the first reading. When the bill is laid on the floor, then it gets referred to a committee, in this case, the Finance Committee. And the Finance Committee is now back with a report recommending by majority decision an approval of it. That's when it goes into what is called the second reading. At the point of the second reading, which is what was unfolding today, then we would have a situation where the MPs would debate the principles of the bill. There will be a debate on what the principles of the bill are. When that is done, then they go into what is called the consideration stage. That's where we see the amendments being done, insert and delete. And we've seen the notice from the NDC MPs that if even it goes through the second reading, then they would have to make amendments, including a request that the threshold be brought down to 0.01%, which is almost negligible. We've seen the NDC MPs give notice that they'll go ahead and request those amendments. And then when that is completed, that's when it goes through the third reading. Now, the point is, even at the level of amendments, And at every step of the process, a lot of the voting on a lot of bills is done by voice votes, yes or no, and then we go ahead. Now, from the indication the NDC MPs are giving now, if the processes are to continue, they would request division at every step of the way. And we may end up seeing, if I'm not mistaken, like 8 or 9 different votes, because then even after the second reading and the waiver is done that the 48-hour duration should be waived, then they need to get to consideration stage. If there is any specific amendment as far as the bill is concerned, the House needs to debate and vote on it. And if in that vote as well, the point is that beyond voice votes, let's have a division, they would see this voting process start all over again. So if you are not careful, even looking at the 4 or 5 amendments the NDC MPs want to make to the bill, we may have voting at least 9 or 10 of them before the bill eventually gets passed. And imagine the NDC MPs that each of those 9 or 10 votings go into the division minus the voice vote. This is a long drag process that you virtually would not want to do, because at each step, this kind of chaos could then come up again. So maybe everyone should just chill, take a break, go deliberate further on this, come back somewhere in January when the House resumes, when they would have enough time to possibly deal with it. Just maybe when they come back at 9 a.m., they should go ahead with closing addresses and adjourn the House indefinitely.
Joseph, thank you very much. And we're going to return at 9 a.m. Hopefully, there will be cool heads that prevail by then. And then we get to see how Parliament proceeds with this E-Levy. Possibly going to be done under executive agency. But we'll see how that unfolds. Thank you for staying with us. A proper extended edition of PM Express. We'll be back tomorrow. Maybe by then, there will be some clarity on the E-Levy. Possibly another topic on PM Express. Stay with us. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your morning.
In this season of giving, sharing, and gratitude, we pause to appreciate you, the special people who made our journey joyful. We say a big thank you. Barka. From all of us here at the Multimedia Group and our families to your families, grateful hearts. Asida, Christ at work.